All right, today we're doing something pretty cool. We're going to shrink ourselves down to explore the most fundamental building block of all life on Earth, the cell. So let's just dive right in.
So, let me ask you something. Have you ever really stopped to think about what you're made of? I mean, yeah, skin and bones, sure. But the real answer is something way more complex, and there's a whole lot more of it than you'd probably guess.
And this really gets to the heart of it. The simplest way to think about it is like this. A house is made of bricks, right? Well, your body, and every other living thing for that matter, is made of cells. They are literally the bricks that build all of life.
So where did this whole idea even come from? Well, our journey into this tiny world kicks off way back in 1665. A guy named Robert Hooke was looking at a thin slice of cork under a microscope and saw all these little empty boxes. They reminded him of the small rooms, or cells, that monks lived in. And boom, the name stuck. But the real game changer came a bit later, when Anton van Leeuwenhoek became the first person to see living, swimming, wiggling cells. He basically discovered a hidden universe.
You know, these amazing discoveries weren't just random facts. They started to form a set of fundamental principles. You could even call them the universal laws that govern all life as we know it.
And here they are, the cell theory. It's so beautifully simple, yet it's incredibly powerful. First, all living things are made of cells. Second, the cell is the most basic unit of life. And third, all new cells have to come from cells that already exist. That's it. This is the bedrock of all modern biology.
Okay, so now that we know the rules of the road, let's actually take that tour I promised. We're going to shrink down, way down, and explore the inside of a cell as if it were a bustling, microscopic city. Specifically, a more complex one called a eukaryotic cell.
But before we head inside, you should know that there are kind of two main city designs out there. You've got prokaryotic cells, like bacteria. Think of these as simple little studio apartments where the DNA just floats around wherever. Then you have eukaryotic cells, the kind that make up plants, animals, and us. These are more like mansions with a special room, the nucleus, that keeps the important DNA blueprints safe and sound. We're going to be touring the mansion today.
All right, so as we approach this cell city, you can see its main districts. The outer border is the cell membrane. That's your security gate and border patrol, deciding who gets a visa. At the center, you've got the nucleus, which is basically City Hall. It holds all the master plans, the DNA. Everything else is floating around in the cytoplasm, this jelly-like stuff that fills the city. And oh, plant cities have this extra feature, a super tough outer cell wall for added protection.
Okay, grab your map because we're going deeper. Inside the city, we've got all these tiny structures called organelles. They're literally little organs, and each one has a super specific job to do to keep the city running. Let's hit a few of the highlights.
First up, you can almost hear it humming from here, the mitochondria. You've heard this a million times, the powerhouse of the cell. And it's no joke. These are the tiny engines that take the food you eat and convert it into a special energy molecule called ATP. Think of ATP as the city's electricity. Without the mitochondria, the lights go out and the whole city shuts down.
Next, look at this massive, folded network of roads and tunnels crisscrossing the city. That's the endoplasmic reticulum, or just the ER. This is the city's highway system, moving materials from one place to another quickly and efficiently.
And if you look closely, dotted all along those highways, and, well, pretty much everywhere, you'll see these tiny little specks. Those are the ribosomes. Don't let their size fool you. These are the factories, the construction sites. Their one and only job is to build proteins, which are the workers and machines that do almost everything in the cell.
So, once a protein gets built by a ribosome, it's not quite ready to go to work. It needs to be packaged and sent to the right place. That's where the Golgi apparatus comes in. This is the city's main post office and shipping center. It takes the newly made proteins, modifies them, sorts them, and packages them up to be shipped out. It's absolutely crucial for keeping the city organized.
And over here, we've got this giant, well, it's a storage tank. This is the vacuole. It's basically the city's warehouse, storing water, food, and even waste products. In animal cells, they're pretty small, but in plant cells, this thing can be enormous, taking up most of the space.
You know, I keep mentioning plant cells, and that's because while they share a lot with animal cells, there are some really big differences. It's like comparing two cities that were built for completely different lifestyles.
So what are the dead giveaways? Well, first, plant cells have that super rigid cell wall on the outside for support. It's literally what makes celery crunchy. They also have chloroplasts, which are little solar panels that let them make their own food from sunlight. And like we said, that giant central vacuole gives them a fixed, almost boxy shape. Animal cells? Nope. They need to be flexible to move around, so they skip all three of those things.
Okay, so we've seen the whole city from the inside. But how does it, talk to the outside world? How does it get supplies in and take the trash out? It all happens at the gates, the cell membrane.
One of the simplest ways things get across is called diffusion. The best part? It's totally free, no energy needed, it's just physics. Things naturally want to spread out from where they're crowded to where there's more space. Think about it. You spray perfume in one corner of a room and a few minutes later you can smell it everywhere. That's diffusion in action.
Now, osmosis is basically just a special type of diffusion, but it's specifically for water. And this raisin example is the perfect way to see it happen. You take a wrinkly old raisin and drop it in a bowl of water. The raisin doesn't have much water inside, but the bowl is full of it. So the water naturally moves from the bowl, where there's a lot of it, right through the raisin's skin into the raisin where there's less of it. And what happens? The raisin plumps right up. And get this exact same thing is happening in your cells right this very second.
So, as our tour comes to a close, it's pretty clear that a cell is so much more than a simple blob of goo. It really is a tiny, bustling universe. From the city walls to the powerhouses deep inside, every single part has a job, and they all have to work together perfectly to create the thing we call life. And I want to leave you with one last kind of wild thought. Remember our tour map? It mentioned the lysosome, the cell's garbage disposal, but it has another nickname, the suicide bag. Because if a cell gets too old or badly damaged, the lysosome can actually burst on command, dissolving the cell from the inside out for the good of the whole body. So, if the most fundamental unit of life has a built-in self-destruct button for the greater good, what does that tell us about the nature of life itself? Something to chew on.